New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
And hello again, dear ones. Dr. Robert with you over here.
Rev Z right here.
And this is New Thought today for Tuesday, December 10th, 2024. Welcome to the holiday season. Welcome to the season of lights. Hanukkah's late this year, Z. So, oftentimes we have an earlier Hanukkah and we're already into it by the 10th of the month. But this year we're going to wait a little bit, stack it all up together. How's that sound?
Oh yeah. We're going to have light on light on light. That's how we do that.
Denver had their annual Holiday of Lights parade this past Friday night, which means it was stay the heck away from downtown night.
Yeah, it's that season, ain't it?
It is definitely that season. So, folks, welcome. Thank you for being with us today, and thanks for joining the conversation. You know, we often talk on this program about what's going on in New Thought, the various, let's call them stressors or inspirations or whatever it is that's happening that shifts how New Thought is being presented into the world, how we're looking at how we present this thing called New Thought out into the world. And I like to, every so often, I like to remind not only myself but some of my colleagues that we're a lot bigger than just any one organization. And this is something I think you and I have been talking about for a while now, Z, is if everyone that truly held the New Thought beliefs were to rally together and speak together, and let's just say for the sake of a parade, let's make a parade together, right? I think it would be a fairly substantial block of people in our country. I think that there are a substantial number of people that are aligned with New Thought beliefs in one way or another. Maybe not everything, but for the most part, we just don't know. They just don't know it.
Yeah. No, I agree with that, in that because these principles have been introduced for a very long time in society, and there are some people who have access, if you will, who practice or learned or tried these principles, and they understand how they work, and they begin to infuse them into other things, not under the auspices of New Thought, but just putting them in. Like you see it in commercials, you see it in songs, you see it in movies. I mean, you see it in all these modes of communication. And so I think the foundational pieces of create your existence, change your life, change your thinking, change your life, some of those kinds of affirmation things and things are in the sphere, but they're not codified, for lack of a better word, as a consistent system of transformation.
Yeah. And I think you just said it right there, a consistent system for transformation. Because truthfully, you said affirmations, and my mind went, yeah, been there, done. Like, how many people have at one time or another been introduced to affirmations and have that been there, done that kind of experience or attitude towards just even the word or the suggestion or the concept of affirmations. Now, we all understand that the tendency has to be greater,
Right.
Right. If the tendency isn't towards the greater affirmative, then we're going to get the greater negative.
Right.
So, but it feels sometimes I don't think people get just how powerful the practice of affirmation alone can be. So they immediately discount it and want to go looking for something more, something bigger, something deeper, something, well, more transformative, a more, I'm going to say it, a quicker way to enlightenment.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, if you find that, let me know. In my experience, there ain't no quick way. There's some ways that you can come out damaged on the other end if you try to shortcut certain things. I mean, you can speed things up. I when I get that question, sometimes I do. How do we speed this up? Well, I said you can't speed it up per se. Now, in a tongue-in-cheek way, it's just like if you have a greenhouse. I can put grow lights in the greenhouse to simulate that the sun is shining all day and you just keep growing. But there's also the thing that there's the flip side of that. Anything that's growing in a plant needs rest as well. So yeah, you can achieve a certain height or growth of the plant by putting it in a greenhouse under a grow light, but there are certain things that are not going to mature or manifest in that environment.
Very true. Very, very true.
And so we have to, I think we have to get to Carnegie Hall, as we always say. We have to practice. And if you practice enough, then you get those quantum leaps. And then in that regard, yeah, it can be a lot faster.
Right. But yeah, and so we're at that go slow to go faster principle.
Yes.
And be able to, because it does take work. It takes practice, right? And not just practice, but a deep commitment to change.
Yeah.
It's
and consistent practice.
Right. And here's the key for me. I think when my practice is consistent, the changes aren't dramatic. Change isn't something I have to go embrace or something I have to like. When I'm consistent in my practice, well, change just is. That's the outpicturing of the practice, and it doesn't have to be something that takes you by surprise, and it doesn't have to be something that is a cosmic two by four, and it doesn't have to be, oh, so and so said we got to have the talk, or all the drama and the trauma and the chaos that we can associate with change. Is only because we've lost track, I believe, of our practice to begin with.
Yeah, we've gotten out of sync. We're not in our orbit or cycle or pattern or alignment. And I use all these terms because each environment requires a different thing. And, alignment in an automobile is quite different from alignment in, architecture, right? Now they may mean slightly different things. So because each individual is a unique expression of the divine and requires different things, the alignment for an apple is very different from the alignment of a peach in terms of a peach tree and an apple tree and what they take in the environment and how much cold and all of that. But alignment is needed for both of them to be optimal. And there's some similarities in that process, but at some point there's a little tangent that's specifically for apples and specifically for peaches.
Yep.
And that goes true for humans, I believe.
Exactly. And it's all the myriad examples of it. I can be out of alignment, but think I'm in alignment. It takes small increments to get out of alignment. So it's sometimes tough to notice that we are. And then once we notice we're out of alignment or we realize, hey, something doesn't seem, I'm not quite heading towards the In-N-Out burger I wanted to go to anymore. I'm kind of heading over this direction. Then we start to have to make the corrections. And sometimes getting back to an alignment can feel like a journey in and of itself.
Right.
I think. So we get this experience in our own lives of the ebb and flow of life.
Yeah.
Things work. Sometimes they work really well. Sometimes we had an experience this morning. Something was happening and I was talking, but nobody was able to hear me. And all the systems indicated that the microphone's working right and that other microphone's working right. And heck, the third microphone is working right, but nobody could hear me. And okay, well, how are we going to, so we recognize there's this give and take, this ebb and flow, and that nothing is forever. Not even the good times, but nothing is really forever. And when things are out of alignment, we just got to sit in that place of remembering and recognizing, hey, I can move this back to alignment. We can move the needle on this one again.
And sometimes just that thought is the impetus you need to begin that foray back into alignment.
Yeah.
I look at what's on the horizon in terms of the new year and the new administration and some of the things that are being previewed as coming attractions, if you will.
I'm sorry.
I think, it's a call for those of us that are into new thought, those of us that are into spirituality, even those that are into holistic religion, right? It is a time to be intentional about what we're doing.
Yeah.
I think the time has come for us to not be not a potpourri of things. Although we may have a potpourri of things to offer, I'm not going to put everything out at one time, right? Because I don't want you to eat the dessert first. I'm going to put some hearty stuff, some vegetables and some grains, and we going to do it that way. Now, there'll be plenty of that, and you can choose from that before, but we're not going to give you the dessert first. And I think that's the kind of intention we have to have as new world builders, as one word I'm toying with, that if we're going to create this world that allows people to self-actualize and allow us to face challenge with a sense of wonder and a sense of the ability to put it back into alignment, we have to have that intention. And we can't, we have to identify and point out where something is not in alignment. However, we can't dwell on it. We can't harp on it. We can't use it as a justification for us not to do our work because that thing is that. That should be more impetus to do the work, to get in alignment and move forward.
Yep. I've been sharing with you off and on. I've been doing a number of different inquiries and learning on my Chat GPT letting it learn me a little bit more and all that. And one of the things that I've been asking it over time that we've been looking at is kind of this: what are some of the kind of almost your traditional SWOT analysis: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, right? And over again, some themes are starting to emerge in my inquiry and in my exploration, and one of those themes is around spiritual bypass and the absolute necessity to get that behind me, to get that, get thee behind thee, Satan. Get away from allowing spiritual bypass to happen, proliferating spiritual bypass in all aspects of what we're doing. And until the New Thought movement grows beyond that, we're gonna have a tough road of it.
Yeah. I think, when you talk about growth, I think we're now because the organization is pretty young, right? Even if we take the first one, we're going back to the early 1900s, late 1800s.
Late 1800s. If we want to, New Thoughts isn't 200 years old yet. No. And so the oldest New Thought organization, I believe, is INTA, and that's somewhere like around 110 or 111 years.
Right. And then if we go back to what we consider to be its founder, Swedenborg and Troward, I mean, those guys were back in the late 1800s, up to the early 1900s, right?
Yep.
So in that regard, we are just we're pre-teens or teens in this business, right? And when we think about what happens in your preteen and teen years, it's about showing off, if you will, i.e., I'll make that a better statement. It's about expressing or showing that kind of thing. And so it creates this this situation where there's a lot of talk but not a lot of action. There's a lot of debate and proving a point, but there's very little a movement, if you will, into turning that talk into a concrete physical event.
Right.
And I think that's where we are now. We're at the point where we have to switch over to take this philosophy and prove it, for lack of a better way of saying it.
Yep. We need, all right, I said the need word, but I'm going to say it. I would love to see a good old-fashioned, and you've heard me say it before, New Thought tent revival. We got to get everybody under the same tent. We got to get everybody out on the plaza, a la Dr. King, and get the whole coalition, make the movement move. Make the movement move, because you're right. And I as you were sharing, it kind of came to me, when you are in a philosophy that teaches consciousness is everything, and when you're in a philosophy where the originating belief system is that you can, through consciousness alone, you can change the world, and that is true. I think what we have found is that is the long road. That is to get enough people to sit and be in consciousness together is the long road, where if we actually start to take action towards, and not just like, I want this to be clear, not just let's go march in the streets, not just go picket with a sign, not just, and all those things are important, but not just that, and not just go feed the homeless, the unhoused, and because you could, you got a big ass credit card and you buy a whole shitload of meals and put yourself on TikTok going to feed people, right? Not if you want to do that. That's cool, but not just that. We've got to have a deeper approach to how we demonstrate beyond just consciousness alone. So consciousness and action, treat and move your feet. Hell, how many times have I heard that said to me in the last 20 some odd years, and by people that don't move their feet?
Well, and it speaks to, I think, a cornerstone or even more a foundational idea from spiritual living, and that is it has to be based on wholeness. It has to be based on a physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual framework, which means I gotta jump in the water. I can't just stick my toe in the water. I can't just scoop out a little bit and pour it over my head. I gotta jump all the way in the water and be immersed. Now, whether I jump in the 10 feet or the 5 feet, okay, now that depends on my skill. But to get the full effect, I gotta jump in the water and be wholly immersed.
And I think, like, there's that piece for me that I know that happens.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that some people, it isn't necessarily willingly immersed. Right? These are the people that we hear about that come in and they sit in the back row and they cry. And they're not they didn't come in the door necessarily willingly.
Mm-hmm.
They got pushed in the door by spirit, one way or the other, somehow, how you look at it. Because if you're going to sit there and cry for 4 or 5 weeks or even just 1 week, that means that's a truly transformative experience, hearing these words, hearing these truths. For others, it might be dipping a toe, but it might also be, which I think often comes from arrogance. But for others, we do have that opportunity to experience the immersion. Again, I think that comes back to, are we willing to do it? Time-wise. When I first started, when I found this, the foundations class was 15 weeks. And that was a commitment, right? And that was not dipping your toe. It was, in retrospect, it was, but at that time, that's a commitment to figuring out. And I remember telling my wife, well, I'm not sure about this thing, so I'm going to take this class. And in those 15 weeks, if this thing's a cult, I'm going to figure that out and we're going to get the hell out of here.
Yeah.
But if it's not, and this is something real, well, I would, I'm glad I don't ever have to look back and regret that decision, right? And to invest some time to really learn about an idea or a philosophy or a movement or an organization or a group before we just, I'm in because of a 20-second TikTok.
Yeah, well, and I mean, you just made me think about the transformation, i.e., that I went through, or pick a bunch of words. I'll stick with that one. The taking my first, going to my first New Thought Center in 2002. And staying on that path consistently until I graduated from ministerial school with a master's in consciousness study and transformative leadership, which was in 2010.
Mm-hmm.
That is an 8-year journey of being thoroughly immersed in this teaching, in this understanding. And given my previous backgrounds in Christianity and Islam and Egyptology, having to reconcile and commingle, I don't like that word, but that's the only one I can come up with right now. together these ideas, or better than commingle, to juxtapose these ideas against each other, to reconcile them, so that when you look at them from different vantage points and different perspectives, you begin to see that they're saying the same thing. They're just emphasizing different points, or they are be looked at as heavily on this side. But when I look at it holistically, it's telling the same story.
Yep. And you bring up a great point that I want to explore in the next segment around all of this, because we all have our own origin stories, and that is going to play a major role in how the New Thought movement could possibly come together to create one unified voice. But we do have to take a break, folks. Let a couple of our sponsors say hello. Let Reverend LZ and I grab a sip of water. We've got just a little over a minute and a half, and we'll be back with more of New Thought today. But please don't go away. Stay with us. Check us out. Let your friends and family know what we're doing. We'll be back right after these messages.
You know, I've been thinking, this volunteer dinner deserves a standout video, something with real impact. But hiring a big production team for just one video? The cost would be huge.
I get it. But have you thought about New Thought Media Network? They do amazing work beyond just broadcast programming on YouTube. They actually specialize in high-quality, one-off productions for events like ours. And I heard they're super affordable.
Really? I didn't realize they did that. So they focus on quality without the premium price tag.
Exactly. Plus, Dr. Robert runs the whole thing, and he's all about making great media accessible. We could get the professional look we need without going overboard on costs.
His sounds perfect. Let's get in touch with Dr. Robert and see if they can work their magic for us.
Well, hello again, dear ones. Dr. Robert here from New Thought Media Network. We'd love to work with you on a custom video for your next event or project. From impactful storytelling to creating a unique avatar for your community or brand, we're here to bring your vision to life, affordably and professionally. Reach out and let's explore what we can create together.
New Thought Media Network proudly presents the 2025 Season for Nonviolence 64-day meditation series, January 30th through April 4th. New meditations published daily at 6 a.m. Eastern Time on our YouTube channel. Join us as we carry the vision of a world that works for all. Only on New Thought Media Network. Learn more at www.ntmedia.org.
And we're back with more of New Thought today on the New Thought Media Network. Thanks for joining us. One of our colleagues is with us, Reverend Patrick Farron from CSL Kauai. Commitment is key. Good topic, gentlemen. Thank you. Diving in these days, my friend, I've witnessed many of my brothers and sisters using toe dipping as a practice. Unfortunately, yes. And I don't think that's truly transformative for people. And part of what you were saying near the end there, Z, of the first segment really got me into it. And I want to find just the right way to kind of, every one of us has our origin story within this philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
Even if our origin story is, I was born into it, even if you're a second or third or even third generation, and I think that's like the maximum we've got right now, right? Is there's some third generation people. My grandmother was, and a couple of those folks are just about old enough that if they wanted to have kids at this point, they probably could, and so we might have, like, mathematically, we might be at a fourth generation, if at the maximum, that is brought up in New Thought. So again, back to you, right? We're still really, really young. But for the most of, for the vast majority of us, and the vast majority of people that will be coming into these organizations, this movement in the coming years, we have some sort of transformative origin story. I sat in the back and I cried. I heard science and spirituality walking hand in hand. I took a class and realized these weren't a bunch of weirdo cultists. I took a class and met my wife. I took a class and I got a job. I took a class and I got healed. I did and we all have these origin stories that we come in the door with. And that origin story is going to influence our entire experience across time of New Thought. We will always think that minister was the best minister ever. We will always think that this is the way it happens, and that physical healing is the key to it all, or demonstrating prosperity is if that was your thing and that was your origin, and you walk in the door and you were broke and you found $10 on the floor and somebody bought you lunch and you went home and there was a check in the mail, and the day after that something happened and you got a big pay, you're going to forever be clouded by and think that we are a prosperity teaching. If it's liberation, we're a liberation theology. It's always going to be your thing. And that's not bad. It just makes it really tough to get everybody talking about the same thing at the same time or moving in the same direction, because we've all got a very different perception of how this works.
Well, and see, that leads me back to, again, we got to get back to the fundamental foundations of what we deal with. We deal with principle, and out of these principles, we extract laws. And my perfect one is electricity. We got hydro, thermal, solar, nuclear, all different ways to extract laws to create this principle called electricity or energy. But it's slightly different depending on the medium that we're using, i.e., whether we're dealing with prosperity or healing. That principle is getting applied to very different situations across a broad spectrum. Physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. It's driving a car. If you have a flat tire, you can still drive on 3 wheels, but it'll get a little rough. You can drive on 2, it'll get even rougher. You can drive on all 4 flat tires and it'll be a nightmare, but you can still do it. But when we begin to extract these different laws or different ways of applying the principles, now we can overcome a flat tire, if you will. We're able to look beyond this thing only helping me get healed or get a job, and look at every aspect. The one thing that I think is key, that I'm toying with in my mind now, is this idea of telling the story, right? Because no one can tell my story but me. You can tell parts of it, and even those are going to be from the outside in. And even if you stand right beside me and we go down the trail a little bit, there's going to be some slight differences. But the key is this, I think. When we begin to look at this whole term that I think sometimes gets overused of being authentic. Being authentic to me is being able to wholly and boldly be myself, to allow my uniqueness, my diverse perspective, my way of looking at things different from you. And the only way I can do that is tell you the story or give you part of the story. So if I come up to you and say, Robert, you don't want to go down Wadsworth, it's flooded. And you're like, well, I ain't heard nothing. I ain't seen nothing. It ain't flooded right here. But if you know my story a little bit, you say, if Z said that dang on road flooded, I'm going another way because I know it's flooded. Now, if he told me the sky was falling, I ain't going to believe him.
But if he told me there was shit falling out of the sky, I would believe him.
Exactly. And that's we have to begin to be ourselves wholly and holistically and stop trying to be someone else. And we all do it. I mean, I have my mentors and my idols that sometimes I want to stand just like them, because when they delivered that word and they had that little stand, it was powerful to me. And so I want to do it too. Okay. Yeah. But that ain't me, maybe. It inspired me, but it ain't me.
Right. Exactly. The inspiration, I believe, is there to give us permission to do it our way.
Yes.
To again be whole. What I've always loved about the Ricky Byers Beckwith song, Holy, Holy Way. It's not a stutter. She's not repeating herself. She is saying whole as in wholeness, WHOLE, holy, 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 a holy sacred, a completely and absolute holy experience. And when we feel secure in doing that, in truly being our holy, holy self, yeah, instant manifestation, instant gratification, right? And I want to see more, and I think we are. I really do. Every day, I think we are getting more. There are more and more people that are starting to say no to the purveyors of fear and limitation. There are more and more people, I think, every day saying no to those that are trying to sell us on limitations and death and destruction and suffering and all of that. I think there are more and more people waking up to wokeness every day.
Yeah, and just as a tangent, I still have an issue, or I ain't gonna say I have an issue. I don't understand people having an idea about being awake or awoke. It's like every time you lay down to go to sleep, the first thing you want to do in the morning is wake up. You want to be awake. You want to be awake. And because that gives you a new perspective, a new whatever. And so I think, this idea about being holy, we have to begin to be wholly able to stand on who and what we are. And that means we have to do a little research and some reflection and some contemplation and some work to figure out who we are and what we bring to the table.
Yep. One of the other similarities that I see in all this kind of chat GPT playground that I've been traipsing around lately is that another common theme is the willingness in the New Thought movement is either a willingness or a commitment to continual learning. And
yes,
and that's one of the places where I see that divide, because when we were kids, I had at one point in my life, I don't remember when, but I heard the term cisgender, and I went, shit, I don't know what the hell that means. Yes. And I could have stayed in that place and just continued to ignore it and wait for somebody else to tell me what to think about it. Or I can go do a little bit of research, figure out what it means, check out a couple of the places I source information from, ask my teenagers what it means, get a better idea of what a word actually means.
Right.
And I think what happened with woke is far too many people aren't in that place of wanting to learn any longer, and they're just like, I don't know what that means, and somebody says, I'll tell you what it means, and that's not necessarily a good actor doing that. I'd always rather have somebody say, here's where you figure it out, rather than tell me what the answer is, Don't tell me what the answer is. Tell me how to figure it out. Help me figure out how to decipher what this word means, or point me to some various reliable sources. But I think too many people just took on woke as, I don't know what it means. Somebody tell me. Oh, it means that. Well, I can't be for that. And have been totally misled as to the origins, the meaning of the word, I guess, at this point.
Well, and you know, there's that whole field called etymology, right, which is the origin of words, right? And so if we believe that words and sounds have their own words, and did I get lost?
Lost your video. You're still in the shot. You're still in the show. Just,
oh wow, I don't know what happened to my video. Interesting.
did you hit stop? Check the stop cam button down at the bottom.
Yeah, no, I'm clicking it and it's there. Oh, there it is. Yeah, I don't know what happened there. Anyway, I'm back. But I think when we begin to look at the origin of things, which we were talking about earlier about being teenagers, when we look at the origin of things, we can get a better understanding of the original intent, of the original meaning of something, and then be able to juxtapose that to how it's being used now. The energetic of it is still there, although the meaning may have changed. It would be interesting if we could get someone that said the word power in 1900, and then now in 2024 have someone say power and look at it on the oscilloscope or something and see vibrations have changed, although the meaning has definitely changed a little bit.
Yeah, I hear you there for sure. What do you think, folks? You're watching. You're part of this conversation. Feel free to drop your comments in the comment box as we continue here this afternoon.
Yeah,
I'm looking at the clock and trying to envision a trajectory for this conversation today. and perhaps it isn't about where we're going. Right? We say it all the time. It's about where we are, what we are doing. And I'm going to use that as an opportunity to just segue for a moment, friends, and tell you a little bit about something we are doing and that we're going to be doing next week at this exact same time. And it's a special guest interview with Marianne Williamson. She will be with us here live on New Thought Today next week, next Tuesday afternoon, 2:00 Mountain Time. We invite you to invite your friends, let your friends and family know what we're doing here. And I know both Z and I are really excited for this. We've been working on this interview for a while now, Z, as far as not only scheduling, but our original and setting the intention. And Marianne's someone we've wanted to have on this show for a couple of years now. I had the pleasure of speaking with her at the Parliament of World Religions about a year and a half ago now, but I know it was before that you and I spoke about it. So really grateful that we're getting a chance to have her on the program with us here. And that's going to be next week, next Tuesday here on New Thought Today. So plan to join us for that for sure.
Yeah. And you know, as we're going through the foray, if you will, today, I think it should be great to get her input. I mean, she has a new piece out, right?
Yes, new book out called The Mystic Jesus.
Yeah, and I'm digging into it, and from what I've read so far, it's talking about what we're talking about here today. How do we, taking a psychological term, how do we actualize this teaching? Yeah. Now she's from A Course in Miracles, right? Which is a New Thought relative. I'll put it that way. And and from her perspective, her thing is, how do we actualize this stuff? How do we make this stuff get busy? And so everybody's saying it. That means it must be time.
I love that. I heard my mother saying if everybody was jumping off a bridge, but it's but I do love what you're saying because everybody is saying it. And this is a little different. Like we have the power to make it so. I just had this idea of a 1 million person march, right? We can go from 1 million man march to 1 million person march. And let people see that. That's the tricky part. They won't know what they're looking at because nobody knows what New Thought is. Right? If it was 1 million Sikh marching or camping or having a revival, we would know what that meant because we can identify that religion, that belief system to some degree. If it was 1 million Muslims, the white guys would be scared shitless. But if it was 1 million Muslims, we would have an understanding. If it was 1 million Jews, we would have an understanding. If it was 1 million Christians, we would have an understanding. 1 million New Thoughters just looks like a Saturday in the park.
And when you look at it from an Islamic perspective, right? Islam is probably one of the most diverse religions on this planet because they got Muslims in China, in Russia, in Africa, in the islands, Europe, America. So in terms of diversity, but some people, some group has got in there and hijacked the original intent of a religion that at its foundation says the purpose of this thing is for you to submit to the will of the divine, to get in alignment with all there is, to understand your uniqueness in relationship to everything else, and that it all works together. But as with all religions or philosophies or ideologies, some people get it twisted or get twisted themselves and use it as a power play or power grab, and they pervert the idea that has the ability to transform someone's life and potentially the world. And so when I look at New Thought provides a container that says we can take the essence, the core, the kernel of these things that have gone off course a little bit, at least according to what they say and what's being done, and begin to rekindle them, to remold them, to rearticulate them so that we begin to see there's only one.
There is one. I love how we do that, Z. We don't try. It just always comes back to the one. It always comes back to the one. Folks, we're going to take another real quick break. Say thank you to our organizational sponsors and individual donors. Let you know a little bit more about what's happening here.
That's all there is. It's easy for that to happen, right? Go around the block, and when we come back, we're right at the house is still there.
Exactly. We'll be right back after these messages.
Please help us say thank you to our organizational sponsors, including the Hefferland Foundation, Affiliated New Thought Network, International New Thought Alliance, Science of Mind Archives and Library Foundation, Center for Spiritual Living Denver, Center for Spiritual Living Midtown, New Thought Philadelphia, Planned Happiness Institute, Summit Center for Spiritual Living, One Heart Retreats, Center for Spiritual Living on the Lake, Unity Kitchener, Unity Spiritual Center Ottawa, Om Center for Spiritual Living, Satya Center, Begin Within Ministries,
Center for Spiritual Living North Jersey, Unity of Savannah, and the Center for Spiritual Living Seattle, as well as all of our individual donors. Thank you for being part of the New Thought Media Network. Please like, share, and subscribe. New Thought Media Network, positively inspiring.
Join our celebration of Black History Month. Only on New Thought Media Network. New videos every day at 6 a.m. Eastern Time, or watch anytime on our YouTube channel. 28 unique Black History moments. Every day in February. Come join us as we celebrate Black History Month. Only on New Thought Media Network.
And we're back with more of New Thought today here on the New Thought Media Network. We've just got a few moments left. We're going to get, we're rounding third and heading for home in a full-on sprint here, Z. So, but do remember, folks, next week, special episode with the Reverend Marianne Williamson. Join us for that. How do we want to bring this all together today, Z?
Well, I think we did in that idea that no matter how we choose to actualize this spiritual life, this spiritual living, no matter what banner you stand under or carry, there is a oneness to the universe, an interrelated symbiotic relationship that is taking place here. And that the only way it survives, the only way it thrives and grows and transforms into what it needs to be given the circumstances is that working together. And work is the operative movement, is the operative word. And as Patrick said, it's a movement. We got to move. And if we can move with light, we can create a vibration that will be felt around the world that will awaken all parts to that core essence of oneness.
Reverend, right on, my brother. Thank you. I don't want to even try. What more could I add to that? Shit. So, yeah, I think it is important that we're having these conversations. I think it's important that, especially now, with what is in front of us, with the challenges that face humanity, I all my work, all my years, I don't see anything that can lead humanity forward quite like this New Thought philosophy can do. And regardless of the circumstances, regardless of the politics, regardless of any of it, borders are irrelevant. We can create community. And I think moving forward, whether it's online or whether it's face-to-face and in person, our ability to foster and create and engage with community is more important now than ever before.
Yep,
there we go, folks.
I agree.
And Reverend Patrick, we're definitely entangled with this oneness in the field of pure potentiality. We got this, no turning back. We are all needed. Yes, sir, we are. Everybody is absolutely vital to what is in front of us. So thanks for being a part of it. Folks, if you'd like to learn a little bit more about how you can be a part of New Thought Media Network, head on over to our website, ntmedia.org. Feel free to hit that donate button and drop a donation in the bucket if you like what you hear here and like what you see here. There's plenty more. Check out all of our programming on our YouTube station. Hit the playlist. You'll see playlists for all of our programs. So please check that out when you get a chance. Share with your friends and family. Until next time, we want to wish you peace and richest blessings. Bye now.